Hello friends. So as we saw in the previous episode, Wang Lin had set out on his journey ahead. But brother, look at his luck. Midway through the journey, he encounters two strange and eccentric people who were about to push him into a brand new and severe trouble. The names of these two were Ji Hong and Lin Yuan. Now initially this second guy spoke very sweet words in front of Wang Lin and offered him a huge temptation. He said that he would take him to a secret place where a centuries-old, extremely powerful and precious origin artifact, meaning a magical treasure, was hidden. Hearing the name of that magical treasure, our hero also becomes quite interested, and without thinking too much, he leaves with him for that place. But brother, as soon as these people cover the long distance and step into that secret location, that guy flips, and his real face comes out in front of everyone. Upon reaching there, he reveals a secret that would blow anyone's mind. He shows that an extremely dangerous enslaving seal is engraved on his body, which is called a slave seal. In reality, he hadn't received this slave seal as a gift. Rather, it was a terrifying curse that the entire lineage had to suffer due to a major mistake made by the Li family. And he wanted to erase this stain of slavery from his body forever, by any means necessary, by hook or by crook. And friends, this was the biggest turning point of our previous story that completely turned the tables. Now today's blockbuster story moves forward from this exact turning point. As soon as Wang Lin opens his eyes and sees the scene in front of him, the entire atmosphere there was already severely ruined, and terrible chaos had broken out everywhere. Because a highly violent and deadly argument and scuffle had started between the two of them over there, he immediately understands that if he doesn't intervene, the matter will go completely out of hand. So without wasting a single moment, he immediately leaps between them. Using his power, he instantly pulls the two of them apart from each other completely. Only one thing was running through his mind at this moment: no matter what happens, Lin Yuan must be stopped from making that strange sacrifice at any cost. By the way, why he was so crazy about sacrificing this Ji Hong and what his real hidden agenda was had not been made clear to anyone yet. But because of poking his nose in at the nick of time like this, one thing turns out great. The poor guy who was fleeing gets an excellent opportunity to run away from there with his tail between his legs, and without looking back, he makes a run for it. Now, as soon as he runs out of that circle, Wang Lin's entire attention fixes straight on the traitor standing in front of him. Without any nonsense, he directly pounces on him and starts beating him up relentlessly so that he cannot execute any of his next dirty plans. In reality, our hero was no novice player. He already suspected his behavior completely, knowing that this guy wasn't as straightforward as he was pretending to be, and that some major deceit was definitely hidden in his heart. Therefore, he thought that before this guy weaves a new trap for me or creates a big threat, why not thrash him first and beat the nonsense out of him? After being beaten, the boy's morale collapses, and he immediately raises his hands. Groaning in pain, he tries to calm Wang Lin down and shouts, "Brother, please stop. I have no wrong intentions against you, nor do I want to harm you even a bit." Panting, he says that he has only come to ask for a small favor from him to save his sinking ship. Crying, he explains that he just wants to borrow that most secret and special technique of yours, meaning the stopping technique, time stop, for just a little while, so that on the strength of that magical power, he can erase the trace of that cursed slave seal forever from his body and from the blood of the innocent future generations of his family. But brother, our main character is a heavily tormented and extremely shrewd cultivator of centuries. He wasn't going to fall for the emotional words of any random guy passing by so easily. He doesn't trust his sob story at all, rejecting his words completely as total nonsense, and without wasting a single second, he directly uses his same dangerous stopping technique on him, freezing his entire body right in midair. And immediately after this, he delivers a very powerful and hard punch straight to his face. With his eyes turning red with anger, he threatens him in clear words. "Listen, brother, I absolutely do not like games played behind my back or anyone's woven trap, so spill the truth straight out, otherwise the consequence will be very bad." But just then, an unprecedented thing happens there that no one had ever imagined, even in their dreams. Even in that extremely helpless and frozen state, that boy completely refuses to give up and gets ready to retaliate with a fitting reply. Suddenly, a strange and terrifying transformation begins to take place in his entire body, as if some very ancient soul or an evil shadow has entered inside his flesh. He uses a highly ancient and destructive technique of his lineage, which is called the destruction restriction technique, destructive seal. The moment he does this, such a terrifying and heavy blast of energy occurs from there that Wang Lin himself is forced to take several steps back to save his life, because that destruction barrier was indeed exceptionally strong and out of control. And the biggest trouble was that the power of that magical barrier was creating a strange resonance with the large mountains of that entire region, due to which its strength had increased 1,000-fold in an instant. Immediately after this, he takes full advantage of this increased evil power, and the guy who had managed to escape to save his life a short while ago, this boy, on the strength of his magical seal, drags him back to himself once again, Seeing this terrifying sight, Wang Lin is also completely stunned from within. Only now does he understand that this shrewd guy has already locked this entire mountainous region from all four sides with his impenetrable magical seal beforehand, meaning stepping out of that boundary line was beyond anyone's capability, and because of this very reason, that poor guy could not escape from there despite wanting to, and got caught in his trap again. After taking him into his possession again, he throws him aside like a sack so that he can comfortably use him for that same secret sacrifice later. After doing all this drama, Lin Yuan's terrible anger suddenly disappears, and he starts pretending to be completely normal and gentle in front of Wang Lin once again. He speaks to him with great affection and manners, and folding his hands, he apologizes and says, "Friend, please don't take my words badly. My intention was absolutely not to scare or threaten you with this destructive seal." And to win his trust, he immediately withdraws that dangerous destruction seal back inside himself so that the atmosphere there could calm down a bit and he wouldn't feel any danger. After this, he once again begins to beg for help. But this time, to melt our hero's heart, he starts opening up the account of the Li family's past, meaning the dark and painful history of their entire lineage. He takes a deep breath and, getting lost in old memories, tells that there was a time when his family used to be extremely famous and respected in the entire region of all heavens. They were considered the greatest and most formidable family in the world of formation experts, meaning those who make large magical formations and seals. But then the wheel of time turned in such a way, and their luck took such a dirty turn, that a huge mountain of miseries broke upon them. What happened was that the very first and great ancestor of their family somehow got that cursed slave seal which enslaved their entire future generation forever. And brother, the curse of that seal was so dangerous that after that, no matter if any of their men staked their life or did any amount of back-breaking hard work, they could never step into the second stage of cultivation. This single curse blocked all their paths of advancement and their growth forever, and their entire lineage came to stand on the brink of destruction. The matter does not just end here. He further makes another shocking revelation, hearing which even Wang Lin's ears perk up. He tells that due to this slave seal, the lifespan of their people was only 30% compared to ordinary cultivators, meaning they would perish into the jaws of death and agony right in their youth. And this was the biggest reason, due to which their entire clan had gradually reached the verge of being completely wiped out and becoming extinct forever. Fed up with this highly disturbing and lineage-consuming slave seal, more than half of their people finally took a huge and horrific decision. They decided that instead of this daily life of slavery, it was better that they all make a huge sacrifice together. And then those brave people staked the last drop of their body's blood, meaning their blood essence, and smilingly put themselves to death. After giving the collective sacrifice of all of them, an extremely special, gleaming magical sword was formed, inside which lay such a terrifying power that it could cut through this enslaving formation seal in a single stroke. And friends, this was the very sword that was scattering its brilliance in Lin Yuan's hands right now. He further tells that when that sword was completely prepared, their ancestor made a full attempt to cut his slave seal with that sword. But at the nick of time, a major incident happened there, and the people of the Ji family came and ruined that entire well-laid plan completely. The people of the Ji family attacked them by deceit and snatched that precious sword from them, due to which that first process of erasing the slave seal failed completely. And that's it. Because of this failure, he's wandering here today so that, on the strength of his family's lost sword, he doesn't let the second chance to erase this slave seal slip out of his hands. He says emotionally that he has somehow regained that sword of his, but now they have absolutely no time left, because their end is very near. At this moment, only 3 people of their family are left alive in the entire world. One is himself, second is his old helpless mother, and third is his little sister. His mother has become so elderly that it is absolutely impossible for her to do all this now, which is why the final responsibility to save this entire sinking family has fallen solely on his young shoulders. When Wang Lin hears this entire painful and tear-filled story from his mouth, a bit of respect and sympathy for the boy grows in his heart. He sees that this boy is ready to go to any length to save his family from being wiped out. But brother, respect is one thing and caution is another. He immediately tells him straight to his face, "Look brother, I certainly feel sad hearing your story, but in the beginning, you made a cheap attempt to trap me in your net. Therefore, I can never blindly trust you completely. I still doubt your intentions." The boy also understands very well that a powerful person like Wang Lin is not going to enter this dangerous game without any solid benefit or guarantee. Therefore, he places a massive and tantalizing offer before him that no cultivator can refuse. He says that if you promise to stand by me in this mission until the very end, I will teach you the entirety of my family's most secret and precious technique meaning the 18 palm flower restriction seal. And to win his trust as an advance payment, he immediately puts half of that 18 palm flower technique, meaning the first 13 parts, into a jade slip and hands it over to Wang Lin. He says that the remaining 5 parts, I will give you only when you completely uproot this cursed slave seal from my body. Our hero immediately scans and checks that magical seal containing 13 parts, so that he cannot be deceived again. And after looking closely with his divine vision, he understands that these 13 seals are indeed a part of that real and legendary technique. Only now does he believe his words a little bit, and he finally agrees to help him. But he was still completely alert from within, because the spark of doubt he had about that boy had still not died down completely. After this, Lin Yuan explains the next plan to Wang Lin, telling him that if this slave seal is to be destroyed forever, they will have to go to the very top, meaning the highest peak of this high mountain, because an ancient and mysterious celestial statue is placed at the summit of that mountain, and until that statue is completely shattered to pieces, the slave seal can never be removed from his body. He accepts his plan, and then the boy begins to guide him up the mountain. On the way, during their conversation, he also mentions that this 18 palm flower restriction seal is actually a secret knowledge of his clan that is strictly forbidden to be shared with any outsider, punishable by death. But since you have stepped forward as a savior to save our existence at this time, I have no regret or fear in breaking the strict rules of my clan. They had only reached halfway up the mountain when the boy shows Wang Lin a small display of the power of his ancient seal restrictions. Seeing that sight, even our hero's mind is blown for a moment, and he is left stunned, because the killing formation or array meant to take anyone's life over there was being changed and controlled by that boy at the flick of his fingers exactly as he pleased. He explains with a smile that all the ancient seals and formations set up on this entire mountain have been under his direct control for centuries. In short, the remote control of this entire mountainous region was in his hands, and he was the king here. Now, since Wang Lin himself was a great master of ancient seals and restrictions, sensing the wavelength of the powers there, he makes a major estimation. He says, "Friend, these ancient seals and the power of the mountain are no ordinary thing. They have certainly reached a stage far above the standard level, meaning 4 levels, where in old cultivation books, these 4 levels are known by the names of Heaven, Earth, Mystery, and Yellow." The boy immediately confirms this accurate guess and says that you are thinking absolutely right, nothing can be hidden from your eyes. But along with this, he reveals something that completely boggles our hero's mind. He says that in the case of ancient seals, this world only knows these 4 levels, but very few people know that above this, there is also a 5th restriction which is called the void seal level. And the seal operating on this mountain right now is that very 5th and most dangerous void level seal. Anyway, sharing all this knowledge, the two of them finally reach very close to the highest peak of that mountain. Just as both are about to step onto the peak, a very strange and terrifying incident suddenly happens. While walking, suddenly the boy's feet freeze right on the spot, as if someone has paralyzed his body. Seeing him in this state, Wang Lin gets a huge shock and enters alert mode. But friends, the real game was playing out not outside his body, but inside his mind. The camera shifts straight inside his consciousness, meaning the deep, dark ocean of his awareness, where a highly mysterious, blurry, and terrifying shadow was hidden inside his mind. And that shadow belonged to none other than the true master of that very slave seal of his. The boy, seeing that unknown and external shadow inside his own mind, gets terribly scared, and his soul begins to tremble. Then that shadow laughs out loud with a roar before him and introduces its true identity. "I am the eternal slave." Mocking him, the eternal slave says, "O foolish boy, I have been ruling over your family's minds and souls, not from today, but since the era of your very first ancestor, Lin Jalin." And after this, that shadow brings forth such a dangerous twist that the ground slips out from under the boy's feet. The eternal slave says, "In the days gone by, when your ancestor was about to cut this slave seal with that magical sword, do you know who blocked his path at that time? He thought it was the G family, but the shadow says with a laugh, no, it wasn't the G family, but it was I myself, meaning the true soul of this slave seal, who took possession of your ancestor's body and completely ruined his entire plan." Laughing, the soul of the eternal slave further says, "What did your lineage think? That they were fighting on their own free will? In reality, it was this slave seal that took control of your ancestor's body last time, so that the statue could be saved from being broken. And look at the twist, brother. The real purpose of this enslaving soul was something else entirely. It just wanted to resurrect its celestial master. And the funny thing is, the G family, whom you considered your biggest enemy, had only come there to help that soul. They wanted to sacrifice a young boy of the G family, because that celestial master was none other than an ancestor of the G family itself, meaning they were all plotting together to bring their master back to life." Now another terrifying twist comes to light here, hearing which the boy is completely dumbfounded. The eternal slave reveals that the rivers of blood the Li family shed to forge that magical sword were not meant for gaining freedom. Rather, the immortal souls of the Li family members were trapped inside that sword, serving as the most essential fuel to resurrect that master. Meaning, from the beginning until today, whatever war of tears and blood the Li family was fighting for freedom was all nothing but a puppet show. The soul of that slave seal made their entire clan dance on its fingertips, just so it could bring its master back into this world. The shadow says, "Last time, due to a small mishap, our plan failed, but fortune is with us this time, because we have gained the help of Wang Lin himself to complete this task." Hearing this terrifying truth of his family's history, the boy completely breaks down from within and shatters. He realizes that the freedom he fought for his entire life was nothing but a deception and a waste of time. He was deeply ashamed and saddened that he had unknowingly pushed his best friend Wang Lin into this well of death too. But brother, there is no use crying over spilled milk now, because just then the boy's eyes open again. But this time the person who regained consciousness was not Lin Yuan. Rather, the soul of the slave seal had completely taken possession of his body, and he was now directly setting out on the mission to resurrect his master. On the other side, our hero did not have even an inkling of this internal war. He was just standing there comfortably watching everything. But our hero was no novice player. He suddenly senses a strange change in the expressions and gestures of the guy standing in front of him. His entire attitude and way of speaking felt like that of another person, as if he had become someone else overnight. Not only our main character, but Li Guo, who was present with him, also begins to sense that something is fishy. Wang Lin immediately scans his body from top to bottom with his divine powers to find out what the matter is. But brother, that soul was so shrewd that it was hidden inside Lin Yuan's body in such a way that despite a million attempts, he sees no difference. Seeing this, he himself falls into a terrible confusion as to what ailment has afflicted this guy in a single moment. Anyway, managing somehow, those people move forward and finally reach right in front of that ancient celestial statue. The moment they reach there, as Wang Lin looks towards that statue, a massive flood of ancient memories suddenly enters straight into his mind from inside the statue. Inside those memories, he sees a very old and terrifying war that was fought centuries ago in the Thunder Fairy realm, and the greatest hero of that mega war was named Jiu Jiwan. In reality, this Jiu Jiwan was none other than the very person in front of whose statue these people were standing at this moment, meaning, when he was alive, he was an extremely powerful cultivator. Wang Lin sees that in that horrific battle, Jiu Jiwan is badly defeated and reaches very close to death. And as he was drawing his final breaths, a wailing, terrifying voice echoes from the sky, completely refusing to accept its master's death. And friends, that voice belonged to none other than the soul of this very eternal seal. As soon as all these memories end, our hero regains consciousness and opens his eyes. Looking ahead, the ground slips out from under his feet, because that boy was standing in front of the statue holding Ji Hong. That soul immediately begins to sacrifice Ji Hong, while pretending to mimic Lin Yuan's voice. He shouts, "I am making this sacrifice solely so that my lineage can be freed from this slavery." But brother, this was just a blatant lie spoken to win Wang Lin's trust, so that he wouldn't poke his nose into the matter. As soon as Ji Hong's sacrifice is completed, the true blood extracted from his body begins to merge straight into that statue, so that the master can be resurrected. But our hero was already alert. He doesn't step forward blindly to help him, but instead begins to connect all the dots running through his mind. Wang Lin suddenly remembers a major detail from those ancient memories, that in that mega war, Jiu Jiwan was using a highly magical sword. Then why exactly is that sword missing from the hands of the statue? On the other side, Li Guo was also completely vigilant. He quietly sets out to investigate the inner part of that statue, and in a short while he returns and gives a secret report to our hero, hearing which he takes a major decision. Without wasting a single second, Wang Lin leaps straight toward that statue, but not to help that soul. Balking at their plans, he draws his gleaming fairy sword, and delivering a powerful strike, shatters that statue right through the middle. And as soon as that statue breaks, the missing magical sword falls out from inside it, seeing which the soul of the slave seal is completely dumbfounded. That soul shouts in anger and astonishment, "What have you done, Wang Lin? Our deal was that you would help me." Our hero, waving his sword in the air in a very cool manner, replies, "Listen, brother, my promise was made to Lin Yuan, not to a parasite or a ghost like you." Meaning, he had already found out that the real master of this body was asleep at this moment, and someone else was playing a game. And this sword was actually not that master's, but was the real sword soul of this very eternal slave. Having completed his work, Wang Lin turns to leave from there. But how could that soul let him go so easily? It immediately utilizes that same 18 palm flower restriction formation and turns the entire region into a massive magical net so that he can be imprisoned again. That soul rose and threatens, "I rule over this entire region. You cannot step a single foot out of here even if you want to." Our hero also realizes in a split second that the situation is indeed highly serious, because inside this magical boundary, the power of that soul had increased so much that it had reached equivalent to the second stage of cultivation, making it impossible to fight directly. Now there was only one way to get out of this array alive, to somehow reawaken the true consciousness of Lin Yuan. Because if that boy regains control over his body, this soul will not be able to use the power of this mountainous region. Wang Lin immediately shouts, "Lin Yuan, open your eyes and come to your senses. Your lineage is in danger." At the same time, he begins to race his mind to find some other way out of this trouble. And just then, a light bulb suddenly goes off in his mind and he understands something that was going to turn this entire game around. Wang Lin remembers that when that soul was trying to resurrect its master with Ji Hong's blood, the statue was actually crying. This clearly meant that the celestial master himself did not want to be resurrected in this ruthless manner. He did not accept living by sacrificing his own children. And only then does our hero understand that this soul did not need his time-stop technique. It was actually searching for the most precious treasure in Wang Lin's possession, which is called the cause and effect whip, or the karma whip, because inside that whip lay the power that could alter the dying wish of any human or god. And on the strength of that whip, that soul wanted to change its master's decision so that he would agree to be resurrected. Wang Lin immediately shouts and spits out this entire truth straight to the soul's face. Your master himself does not want to return to this sinful world. Hearing these words, the ground slips out from under the feet of the eternal slave's soul, and it is completely shocked. But gentlemen, look at the twist. The story stops right at this suspenseful turn. Truly friends, the plot twist this time is absolutely mind-boggling. Who knew that this soul occupying Lin Yuan's body is actually the soul of that master's fairy sword, who loved its master so much that it simply could not bear his death. And to resurrect him, it became bent on sacrificing its own descendants. But the master himself was a true cultivator, which is why he had rejected this disgusting game, and because of this, the first attempt had failed. Now, it remains to be seen what new storm this karma whip of our hero kicks up in the coming time, and whether he manages to escape safely from the clutches of this eternal slave or not. Anyway, whatever the outcome of this entire incident may be, we will only find out in the episode coming next week. If you found this video solid, then definitely give it a lovely like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next blockbuster video. Until then, tata and bye bye.